All right, I'm gonna play the intro real fast here.
It's episode 19, right?
It's not my fault. I can't grow a beard.
I love it.
All right, I think it's hilarious. Okay, let me see. You guys ready? Are you guys good?
Yeah.
I love you. Me too.
Hello and welcome to another Woodshop podcast with Mike Coffey of Coffee Custom Builds, Daniel Dunlap of Daniel Dunlap Woodworks, Peter Kapar of Features Workshop. You can find us all as well as the podcast on Instagram and YouTube.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 19 of another Woodshop podcast, where you have three experts in our own opinion.
Three experts.
In our own opinion.
Okay.
Yeah,
My mom
I'm an
says I'm
expert.
really good.
Yeah. I know everything there is to know about what I want to know, and will tell you guys. And I make no sense.
That makes no sense.
Well,
Hashtag stroke.
hashtag stroke. How are you boys doing? I'm so glad Dan's here. We almost didn't have Dan. That was
Yes.
scary. Dan
Wanna
almost
tell him
quit.
what our plan
We
was?
negotiated a contract. It's all fine.
Dan almost
I'm finally
walked.
getting what I deserve.
Yes.
He's getting exactly what we're getting. 0. And that's what he deserves.
He still doesn't know what Patreon is, and the longer he does it, the better.
Do we wanna-
What's that?
Do we
What's
want
Patreon?
to say what, was possibly going to happen with Dan? I think we should.
Go for it.
Dan was on vacation.
Oh,
And
yes.
We almost didn't have a Dan in this episode.
Yeah.
And we set up and Dan was gracious enough to pre-record a bunch of sound bites. And me and Pete were going to try to make it go as long as possible to make it sound like Dan was actually on the show with us.
And these were, if I may use young lingo, these were fire. They were good. Very good. Yes, I said it. I said it. Did you hate mail too at Coffee Custom Builds? Mike, can we get a couple samples of that stuff? Because it was, again, fire.
I don't think I can play any of them because most of them are pretty inappropriate. So I think that's probably the best that we don't do that. So I don't know.
I worked them into the show anyways.
I'm in band camp.
Yes.
Hey,
My family and I were in the Black Hills for the last 6 days, and we came back a day early.
nice.
They all wanted to come back early, and I was like, "Oh, great, let's go," because
Cool.
this way I can record the podcast with the boys.
I'm glad you're here. Pete told me in his private text message that he's not happy you're back, but I personally am very
I
happy.
believe that. I actually
Fine.
believe that.
Fine, I was going to get your share, but that's fine.
Hey, I've got great news.
Yep.
This episode is brought to everyone by Bear Hollow Supply. Thank you to Bear Hollow Supply. Those guys are awesome. I got some undermount slides from them came in 2 days ago, and they are beefy monsters. I've never worked with undermount slides. Have you before?
So I've seen them in cabinetry, but they're always stupid flimsy. Like, they're just not good. It's basically side mounts that they mounted underneath, and
Yeah.
I've seen people do that before, and they just, like, droop.
Are you talking
The-
about those Bloom undermount
They're
slides?
not Blum. I don't know who makes them for Bear Hollow, but Bear Hollow makes them. They're undermount instead of side mount, and these things are massive. They're like I-beams.
Ooh.
I need
Anyway.
some 38-inch undermount
got a guy.
undermount
I
slides.
got a guy. It's Bear Hollow.
Yeah. Good. I've got great news, and you're gonna want to sit down. Oh, you are. Go to bearhollowsupply.com. But yeah, no, I don't know how big they got, but they were surprisingly large.
Yeah, I need some
So-
very large ones coming up very soon.
Yep. And use promo code AWP for exactly the same price.
Well, they add
at checkout.
5%, but they take it off after they add it, so it's cool. So no,
It's for
thank you
tax
to Bear Hollow.
purposes.
Really, really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
they're great.
Yes, thank you, Bear Hollow.
And I don't know, Pete, do you want to do the Patreon thing?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank all of our new patrons, which Mike will take care of in a moment. But we do have a Patreon now, and we will be offering a lot of really cool content, including, as of this week, our first pre-show. It is explicit. It
Yes.
is us just ripping on each other the whole time. You think the actual
Can I
show
just
is
give-
funny?
Can I just
Go.
give the one like secret thing about the explicit part?
Oh,
I'm just
yeah,
gonna say
go.
one thing. There's
Uh-huh.
2 Pete's.
One cup. Just one cup. Yeah, and you guys don't get the joke now, unless you're a patron of the mid-tier or higher. That's right. This is what we talk about on the pre-show. It's filthy. It's dirty. We make fun of you all of you.
Oh, we make fun.
All
we
of
make fun
you.
of Pete a lot.
Yeah, but like, think of like how much they rip on me. It's not that bad, but like you guys will still get it.
I actually listened to last week's episode and I was like, man, I was really mean to Pete, but then I laughed really hard about it because it was so funny.
Oh, I gotta do that again. Get my bourbon.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry. Pete,
Drunk Papa Mike. Drunk Papa Mike. So if you do want to sign up, head over to patreon.com/anotherwoodshop podcast. You'll be getting anything from a sticker of the podcast to a sticker from Dan. That's the top tier. That's right. We're also going to be throwing some t-shirts in there. Obviously, you get the pre-show. And something that we didn't actually announce, but we ended up doing anyways, is if you're a patron, you are getting the video version of the podcast when it drops. All the people that are in the tier that get the early show, you also get the video, which is pretty cool because you get to watch us blink a lot and talk awkwardly into the mic instead of the camera. It's great. Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. It's good stuff. And what tier is it? Oh, the VIP tier, actually. I've got it worked out now. We got to get some other information, but they're all getting Another Woodshop podcast shirts. They're getting the first shirts. So $20 tier. Yeah, they're the first shirts ever. There will be a lot of shirts available. We have obviously slab this, mahogany that.
Yep.
That's all I can think of now. But
those of you that have been posting that online, we are suing you now.
Yeah,
our
Kevin,
lawyers will
Lefties Woodshop. You are going to be in a lot of legal doo-doo after this episode.
We're going to own his shop.
Yeah, it's going to be AWP's wood shop.
No, so. it's the left. It's AWP shop at Lefties.
What? No, okay. So anyway, there's stuff
you're gonna be able to show off, that you're a VIP. You're gonna be able to show off your VIP-ness of the that you are a VIP to everyone else. This is also a joke from the pre-show.
That wasn't.
I was waiting for a way to work that in, and you nailed it.
So anyway, we appreciate you guys very much. But hey, we said we were gonna mention all the new patrons at the beginning of the episode, and we have 30. So I'm going to rattle these off. It is absolutely bonkers. We are going to name everyone. We're going to start from the top tier and go down. We really are can't overstate that we are blown away by this.
Blown away.
Yeah, we were texting each other going, "Oh my gosh, people are really into this." Yeah, it was crazy.
We couldn't believe it.
Yeah, we can't thank you guys enough. We're expecting our wives and my fiancés to sign up under a fake name to make us feel better. You guys all jumped on board. And
who's Schlemma? Have you heard this name before, Schlemma? Anyway, I'm gonna run down the list right now. So we've got Four Nances Design Co. We got Justin with Rustic Grain. We got Kyle Foote. We've got Lee Oman. We've got Matthew Van Blaircom. We've got Nick Fouts, Thelma Kennedy, Andrew Deering, Andrew Dembeck, David Wirt, Eric Yoakum, Jen Solis, Javon Cheney, John Grubb, Kevin Hemphill, Max Jensen, Roger Blake, Sean Russer, Tyler Kimball, Brendan Morrison, Caleb with Up North Minnesota Shop, John with Character Red Wood Shop, Jake Vance, Ludwig Barnes, Michael Heredia, Mike Holmes, Robert Silman, Alan with AC Nailed It, Brian Rupert, and Eric Dean. That is bonkers that I had to name off that many people just now. That is unreal. So thank you so much, everyone. This is this is certainly going to be the longest Patreon naming segment we have for any other episode. So thank you for bearing with us. Those of you who aren't, those of you who are a patron, man, we just really appreciate it so much. So with that out of the way, we're going to jump in a little segment we call What's on My Bench? And I'm going to throw that right to Dan because his is going to be the quickest.
What is on my bench? Well, let me tell you. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
I know.
Nice.
Shocker. I was on vacation for the last 6 days. I know you're probably like, Dan, you took a vacation last week. That was like a 2-day little camping trip. This was an outing. A 6-day cross country like trek in our camper. It was amazing. We saw Mount Rushmore. We were in the Black Hills. We did all sorts of things Black Hillsy. It was wonderful.
That sounds great, man.
Yeah, what'd you do? What's up with you? What's on
my bench?
Yeah, Michael.
Well, Daniel, I'm glad you asked because that's the segment we're in. This week, holy moly. You'd think I would have thought about this before the segment. No, no, it's been a pretty slow week, honestly. I'm doing this. I was in between two big projects. Well, big projects. I was in between two projects, and I told my barber like 7-8 months ago that I would make him. He's a retired corrections officer. I told him I'd make him a bottle opener for the barber shop, and that I'd make him one of the thin blue line flags as a bottle opener. You know, so I'm doing it finally. I'm just making it out of maple. I did India ink on there, and it's honestly not a super fun build. There's a lot of epoxy involved, and I'm not like a huge fan of mixing up and pouring epoxy, and there's just a lot of taping and recutting, and it's just a lot more work than anticipated.
If I may interject,
yeah, of course
it looks like the maple took the India ink really well.
Dude, it takes it so nice. I was really concerned.
Like, have you ever tried to stain maple?
No, I haven't.
Almost impossible.
It took the India ink perfect, dude. It went. I did one, and then I waited 10 minutes, and I threw another one on. I probably could have done the third one, and it would have gone just totally blacked out. It's gorgeous. Stuff works so good. It takes it so well. I can't wait to do it on this ash base. But yeah, it took it. I mean, maple's pretty cheap for the most part in general, right? I mean, it's not like a super expensive hardwood, so it's a good option. But I think you're gonna get more grain presence with ash, and that stuff just kind of takes.
I was thinking more along the lines of like using it on curly maple, where you can see the fire and the ripples and.
What was it? Nick. Nick. He does India ink all the time. I thought he did that guitar recently, right?
He didn't use India ink.
He didn't use India ink. He used a black dye. Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, oh man, that India ink came out good. And he's like, nope, I didn't use India ink, which was surprising for him. But the reason is because it sands off so easy. It actually doesn't go into the below the top surface. So it does go. It's not a top coat. It does go in, but it only goes really, really shallow into the fibers. So, but I've been working on that. I sold my joiner this week. It's kind of sad seeing that go, to be honest. We're actually going to get into a question about emotional ties to tools, and I actually had a harder time saying bye to that than I thought I would. It's kind of weird, but I did have a hard time saying bye to that. But it went to a local woodworker, which is awesome. I mean, of course, it's going to go to a local woodworker. It's not like it came from an out-of-state woodworker bought it. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean, a local woodworker got it, so that's cool. But been a pretty slow week. Just been mostly cleaning up, getting some things organized for some changes in the shop. And I'm going to be getting to this coffee table this week, finally. I'm excited about that. So, Pete, what about you? What's on your bench?
Had a huge week. I think I mentioned last week that I had a spider in the shop that keeps making webs. I killed it.
Yes.
Got him. We got him.
Everyone's happy.
We got him. I got the Bush banner behind me. Mission accomplished.
on the jet, on the air carrier.
Yeah. So yeah, there was that, and then I also finally finished the flip top cart that I started what feels like in fall of last year, but really was only 3 weeks ago, and it spins. It's only
you've been talking about it for a long time, though.
I've been talking about it, yeah, because it really was a monumental build, because they're just heavy tools to even like move them around, but it's just a pain in the butt. But it's all together. It's spinning. It has no play. I do still need to work out some latch system. I've been brainstorming with the big brain that is Instagram. Everyone's giving me their 2 cents, and I really appreciate it. I'm getting a lot of ideas. I'm the kind of guy that I like to make it out of stuff I have in a shop. So I'm trying to get really creative, but I might just have to go with something, big box store or Amazon order for either threaded inserts or something. I want to make sure this thing is nice and stable, because these are heavy tools on there, but it rotates with no issues. I actually did a video of Emma flipping it, and I think Dan, you when you told me like that actually looks and works better than I thought. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. I was expecting it to kind of be like really bulky and like annoying, it's so nice. For those of you watching the video, it is right behind me in the video here. But it's also nice, and this is such a stupid little thing to be excited about, but I don't have a lot of flat space to put stuff on in my shop, and both of those tools sat on carts that were literally the size of the base. So now I have like a foot of space on each side, so I can put a tool and like leave it there for a month. You know, it's nice. Like what we do with our shops. So that's pretty much it. That's been well, and another thing, I guess I talked about it to Mike a little bit this week. I have been kind of out of the shop this week because I've had an insanely busy week fulfilling 3D printed orders. I mentioned last week I got another printer in the mail coming in a couple of weeks, and it's just been a busy week. And let's just say that thing has like basically paid for the printer I just ordered, which is crazy. It's just been busy. I'm very thankful. That's helping me. That's helping me kind of do what I love to do, which is just put out content, come in here and play, and not have to stress out about commissions or whatever. But I do. That being said, I do want to get back into commissions. I think I want to start making some projects for other people just to kind of get outside of my own brain of ideas. But
cool.
That's about it. Why don't we hop in some voicemails?
I decided we're not going to do it.
Cool.
We'll just call
guys, thanks for following.
No, yeah, let's get into some voicemails. This first one was from Alan with AC Nailed It, and it's coming right now.
Hey, AWP team. This is Alan from AC Nailed It, and I have a question for you guys. How far do you guys go when finishing a project? How perfect do you try to make it? How much time do you spend on the little micro details around the corners where legs and aprons meet, or the small gaps in tabletop seams, or anything else like that? I know, especially in a production type shop, you kind of have to get things rolling and going out, but how much time do you really spend on nailing those little tiny details? I find myself spending sometimes too much time and just tinkering around for hours trying to make something perfect, and I feel like I'm probably spending too much time on that. So I'd love to hear you guys' input on this. Be good.
Dan, I want to hear your thoughts.
I spend quite a lot of time on all the little details because I think when you start nailing those things, I think that's one of the things that's really going to set you apart from somebody else. Is the details. It's what makes your product look more professional, in my opinion. So I will take the time to sand all the corners, sand all the burn marks. I even take the time to make the bottom of a tabletop look as good as possible. I know some folks who don't. And, on the chance that somebody has to get under the table, I want them to see the bottom of the table and go, wow, they actually put that kind of time in the bottom of the table where nobody's going to see it too, So I think those little things is what's going to set you apart from everybody else. So spend the time. What do you think, Pete? Well,
an easy way to make sure that you don't have to worry about the finishing and not stress about it is just don't finish it. Yeah, that's been a lot of my projects lately.
29 cutting boards sitting in the rack.
Sitting in a rack. But yeah, it's part of it is because I am obsessive about finishing things. I do go into all the details. If there's a little dent, I go nuts. If there's something off, if it's got a burn mark, it's all got to get cleaned up. I'm a perfectionist. And I mean, like, let's even say a cutting board, I see the cutting boards that are sold at like flea markets or whatever. Most of them are good, but there's some that are they clearly just sanded it, to whatever, 220 and then hit it with oil and never raised the grain, nothing. And it's just like kind of rough to the touch. I'm not about that. I want somebody I live for that when you meet eyes with the client, when they touch the product for the first time and it's so stupid smooth. It just like, they actually look at you like, whoa, this is just glass smooth, or a cutting board, it's so perfect, or a top is nicely finished and it feels really durable. Like I live for that. So I definitely obsess about it, probably a little too much, because like we said multiple times, nobody really notices a lot of these mistakes except the person that makes it. But I still, I want to make sure if something with my name is going out there, I want it to look the best it can. What about you, Mike?
No, I agree. I mean, I'm just going to ditto on this because it's the same answer. I mean, you have to take pride in your craftsmanship, and none of us are in a production shop. So I think there's, Alan mentioned in a production shop, sometimes corners get cut. We're not like slamming through tons of built-ins and stuff. I'm not doing a ton of commissions, and Dan has the most commissions, but
I'm not doing so much that I can't take care of the details.
Dan is doing, one-offs, big things. Dan is set up to where he has to make his product the best it can so it keeps selling. So I don't have anything else to add. I think that if you are in a production shop, which none of us are, so we really can't speak to it, I think there's different corners you can cut, but you're also not making these one-off orders. It's a different demographic or market, I guess. They're just different things. You don't have 300 families coming and asking you for a coffee table.
I will say that I did used to work in a production shop, and we had standards on tolerances that we could fudge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, even in a big production shop, I think our tolerances were like 1/32 of an inch. So
that's really tight.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and if I may just like throw in like a quick thing is I will anyways.
Yes, of course, Pete. It's your show.
I'll never forget this quote, but I will never remember who said it, and that was, "No one can tell the grit in a video." And it was somebody that I forget. It was in an interview on another podcast where someone that makes a ton of videos and a lot of great content. It's actually a bigger name in the community. I just don't remember who they are.
Judo.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say
knows?
David Picciuto. I remember him saying something like that.
People that, like, if you need to crank out content for how to, you're not so much focused on how well.
Just whatever, just make it.
Yeah. So that's that
video.
part of it. And that's fine. It's got to look good in a video, or you can refinish parts or apply more coats later. But, we're in it we give the final product to somebody, usually, or for ourselves. And especially if it's for yourself, that thing better be perfect.
Yep. Agreed. I think we're going to ditto that one, even though we all answered it succinctly. Okay. So this next one is from Andrew. This is Andrew's.
Hey guys, this is Andrew from ADD Woodworking on Instagram. I've actually got two questions for you. The first one is, when you're in a shop, do you wear an apron or not, and why? And the second one is, when you're marking, do you prefer using a marking knife or a pencil or something else? Thanks for everything. You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
I'll take this one. I try to wear my apron whenever I can. I really enjoy wearing an apron, and I like having a bunch of tools available at hand. I also like that it keeps my clothes kind of clean, and I also like that I've never had table saw kickback, but I also like knowing that if something flies at my stomach, I've got a little protection there too. So
I never thought of that angle.
I do try to wear whenever I can. Sometimes I've also noticed that I don't really wear it when I'm recording stuff, because sometimes it looks kind of goofy, but I try when I'm generally speaking, yes, I wear whenever I can. And then for marking, I'm actually actively in the process of trying to use a marking knife more than a pencil. I've been using, I've used a pencil forever, and I started using I don't know, a month or two ago, I started challenging myself to do dovetails, and I was using the marking knife, and I was like, man, why don't I use this all the time? So I'm actually trying to I keep that in my apron now, and I really enjoy using a marking knife more than a pencil for sure. So that's my answer. What about you, Dan?
I do not wear an apron for no good reason. I don't like the way it feels. I feel constricted.
Yeah, I got you.
My shop isn't AC'd.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more hot and it's sticky, and I don't know. I like the free ball it without the apron.
Pete's uncomfortable.
No. I was getting a picture in my head.
You getting a visual?
That's why I'm smiling.
As far as the pencil versus marking knife, I do both. It really depends on what I'm doing. If it's something that doesn't
a marking knife for plywood?
No. If it's something that doesn't need to be super accurate, I just need to be able to repeat it. You can use a pencil for that. Use a pencil for that. Set your fence, set your stop block, whatever. And repeat the cut. But like the other day, not the other day, I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, when I did that dovetail half lap, I used a marking knife because I needed that to be super accurate. And the marking knife also pre-cuts the fibers, so you get less tear out along the line. So I used marking knife for that. What about you, Pete?
For me, everyone looks cool in an apron from the waist up. Let's just say that. So that's why I know why Mike doesn't wear it in videos, because when you get the full body shot, it's like a half dress. I love my apron.
It's a kilt.
It's a kilt. It's a half a kilt.
Welcome to the shop.
Welcome to the shop. Coffee custom builds. And he just spins a hammer and throws it.
You can take our claw hammers. Or I don't know.
Anyways, back to the question. You guys pay for this. All right. So I love I really actually love the apron, especially if I'm doing hand tool work or something where I need to throw things in my pockets a lot. I will put that on. It is, however, very hot. Like Dan said, it's hot in the summer. So I'm definitely seeing myself wear that like fall, winter, almost all the time. Summer, maybe not so much unless the AC is pumping. And as far as marking, a knife for any joinery or hand tool work, pencil for everything else. And I have a sharpener. I sharpen pencils all the time. I put them into a little holder. They stay sharp. As soon as they're a little dull, they go in a sharpener.
Yeah, I gotta clarify actually. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to use a Dan. When I don't use a marking knife on everything, obviously. I'm trying to use it more because I never really used one prior to challenging myself to do
Well,
them.
nothing severs the fiber of MDF like a marking knife.
Rustic MDF. All right. This next question is from Brendan Morrison.
Hey guys, Brendan from Morrison and Son Woodworking here. First off, just wanted to say I've been loving the podcast. You guys are doing an amazing job. For a new woodworker like myself, I can honestly say you guys have lots of knowledge, and I love listening to you every week, and I always get a good laugh. So I'm finally remembering to actually record a question for you guys, which is shocking for myself. But I had a quick question that's kind of project specific for myself. I'm looking to build my first bookcase / display case that's going to hang on a wall for my parents. It's going to have a couple of cubbies in it. Planning on making it out of either red or white oak. Haven't decided on that one yet, but trying to find out how to get the cubbies together. I don't have that fancy domino, but was wondering if I should invest in a dowel jig or a Dado stack. Don't have either of those yet, but I do have a biscuit joiner. And my only struggle with the biscuit joiner is I know you guys have said that they don't add strength. They're just more for lining up. So would that be a poor choice in this situation? Really would be interested in hearing what you guys have to say. Thank you, and keep up the great work.
Pete?
So I want to clarify something we've said in the past. We did say that the biscuit joiner doesn't really add strength. The dominoes, they're more for like aligning things. If you're doing a top, so if you need to extend the actual board, it adds a little bit of strength in the part where the face of the biscuit joins against the face of the cut, or the hole that's cut. So it does give you a little extra rigidity, but not something where it's going to make a huge difference. It's predominantly to align properly, but it does add strength in the end. However, when you're going, I'm imagining a bookcase, so I'm thinking like at least 2 shelves, kind of something like what Mike just built with like 2 shelves. It's got the sides, so there's stuff joining at a 90. When you're joining a biscuit or even a domino at a 90, it's still face grain joining end grain, no matter if it's the wood touching itself or it's the actual biscuit or domino going into the wood. So it's not going to provide a ton of rigidity, but it still lines everything up for you nicely and makes sure it glues up in a proper area. So I'd say it's going to help, but don't think of it as like the primary way to hold it together. Does that make sense? I don't know. What about you? Oh, Mike, let's talk about you because we just talked about the domino and you're a big fan. I
don't think that the biscuit's going to help on that joint. I could be mistaken, but I don't think a biscuit's going to give any strength, is it?
I guess I'm imagining like two parallel shelves with like dividers in the center.
I don't think a biscuit adds any strength at all. I think it's
no. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to add it on the 90-degree connectors. So
okay,
yeah.
So I honestly, to me, it's makes sense to get a dowel jig for this one, but you could also do dados, and the dado stack is going to give you some other options that a dowel jig is for dowels only. A dado stack, you can cut dados. You can also cut rabbets, so it opens up some other options for you. So for me, I think a dado stack is the way to go, and then just do dados to join this thing. But you can get a dowel jig for like, I think they pay you $3 to get those out of the store now, so they're really cheap. Like, but you can get like the nice ones. Like Jessam's got some nice ones. I'm pretty sure Rockler and Woodcraft have their own brands as well. So you can get them. There's a million. They're a dime a dozen. They're not very expensive, and they're the same principle as the domino. You're getting a tenon. You're getting a floating tenon essentially. It's just shaped different. So I mean, you're getting a floating tenon with a domino, but a dado joint is really, really strong joint. You've got a lot of glue surface there, and with the overlap there, you get a lot of strength. So I think for this, and if you don't have either a dado stack or a dowel jig, my personal opinion is get the dado stack because you're gonna be able to use it for other things. But if you're spending the $80 on a dado stack, 15 more bucks on a dowel jig, I don't think is that big a deal.
Or a dado bit.
But if it is, what?
Or a dado bit for a router if you want to go that route.
Oh yeah,
route, get it? That route.
Get it out.
Carry on.
Dan, what you got?
I agree. I would invest in a dowel jig. I mean, that's something you're just going to need and use in the future anyway. Also, the dado stack, it's going to come in handy for several other things. I made a media console that I use in my own home out of strictly rabbets and dados and glue.
Yeah.
It's held together by nothing else.
Yeah.
However, I do want to say that you could make this with the biscuit joiner, and it will be plenty strong for what you're looking for. And John Heiss has a video proving that, where he made a bookcase and he sat on a shelf, and he's a big guy. He probably weighs more than me. I'm no little guy. He sat on a bookshelf. He sat on a bookshelf with nothing but biscuits holding it together, and it held him just fine. And he's probably 225, 250.
He's a big guy,
I'm guessing. So yeah, you could use biscuits in this case.
There you go.
And Grandpa didn't have any of this stuff, and somehow they make bookcases back then. So
yeah, they also didn't have biscuit joiners. I mean, they weren't using biscuits back then.
I mean,
you
could also go get
dados and rabbits.
You could also go get the basic Craig jig.
The shelf mounting hole, like where
the pocket hole jig.
No, just the basic Craig jig pocket hole, like that single one. What is that? The K1? I don't know what it is.
It's like $20.
It's like $20.
Yeah, you can do pocket holes for it for sure.
Pocket holes.
Lots
of options.
Yeah,
pocket
there are
holes.
lots of options.
Make it out of pine,
Domino is not something you need to do that build at all.
Nope.
Or really any build. You don't need it for any build. It just makes it go faster.
That's right.
The next question is from Character Red. That's John. Check it out.
Hey guys, John here from Character Red Woodshop. So my question for you guys this week is, what is the one skill, whether it be just woodworking in general or running your business and some things that you had to learn with developing your website or editing video for your YouTube videos? What is the one skill that took you guys the longest to grasp and really gave you the most challenge in learning how to do it and learning how to excel in it? So thanks, guys. Keep up the great work, and look forward to next week's episode.
Was he asking about, like, what was he? Was it?
I think it was more about
just like everything. It was like not woodworking,
all around,
right?
Either woodworking.
Around the woodworking.
What's something
stuff,
that challenged you the most? Like, or you?
I mean, I feel like the woodworking aspect is one thing, and all the other stuff that comes with the content creation. I think he's asking about the content creation, business stuff, other stuff, right?
That's what I'm kind of getting more. Yeah.
Okay, because for me, I'm gonna give 2 answers here, because if we're not including woodworking, because there's just a million things in woodworking that you're just never gonna be done learning.
Yeah.
For me, with the content creation, it's figuring out my style, and I feel like I'm nowhere near. in a year, I feel like I'm nowhere closer to figuring out what my video style is as I was a year ago. And I feel like I'm never going to find it on Instagram, and YouTube is the place where I'm going to find it. And I feel like I have like 50 to 60 more videos to put out before I ever find it. It's just such a long road to figure out for me. And then in terms of the business side of it is being more shrewd, and not like screwing people or anything, but like being more being less soft, and like being, I'll cut a little bit of the price off for here, being like firm about my pricing and stuff like that. That's my other thing is just, sometimes I'm like, I'll help them out here, I'll do this or that, and all it does is hurt my value of my perceived value of my brand. So those are my two big struggles outside of the woodworking for this stuff. So Pete,
I gotta say ditto. It's literally like I had the same answers in my head. It was with video editing. I'm currently struggling a lot with that. I'm not bad at it. I just don't know what my style is. And I'm trying to really dial it in, and I'm trying to, on my first or second video, already hit it out of the gate. But I know this is something I have to grow into, and I'm trying to tell myself that every time I edit it. And on the business side, it's knowing my value, because there's times that I really want to dial it back, and because I think I'm like almost inconveniencing them by giving them a quote, and like no, like especially with 3D printing, because like I designed it, but the machine's doing the work for me. And I'm kind of like, well, I didn't really do that much work. So
you're
like
selling the physical manifestation of IP, intellectual property.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but that's worth something. That's worth a lot. You can't devalue that.
And it's hard. That's even harder to value than your work, because I'm not putting hours of work on it. So that's tough for me. But what about you, Dan?
I wouldn't tell people that. But go ahead, Dan.
Along those same lines, I found it hard to get in front of the camera and be myself. But the more I do it, the more I feel comfortable doing it. And we've talked about that before. Yeah. But as far as the business goes, one of the things that took me the longest to learn was how to sell myself. Not just sell my product, but sell myself as a person. And really get somebody to believe in you and your work as a person, and just really buy into who you are and what you're offering. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people don't realize that they need to learn, is how to sell yourself. And I learned how to do that from my other business, because I used to be an extrovert, like really bad. And being a photographer and having to interact with people all the time, it really taught me fast how to be more
extrovert.
Yes, I was an introvert. Yeah. It taught me how to be more extroverted.
Yeah.
So yeah, that being a people person took some learning.
Gotcha. It's tough. I think that's good for that, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Jake with JV Woodworks question. Here's Jake.
Who?
Never heard of him.
Hey guys, this is Jake from JV Woodworks on Instagram. I wanted to submit a question for the podcast this week. My question is actually a hypothetical scenario. Let's say you were going about your day and were approached by a genie who told you that you could end world hunger and wars, but you had to do one of two things. Give up all of your power tools and use only a fully decked out shopsmith, or only items you can find at Harbor Freight for the rest of your life. No other tools. Which route would you go? And I'm assuming you're going to go with one of them and take the deal because, hunger and wars kind of suck. Let me know what you think.
Dan, I'm dying to know.
Man, why do I have
Should we
to
just
be the first
pass Pete because we know it's going to be Harbor Freight?
Whoa. Well, that is a solid assumption.
I really didn't want to be first because I wanted to hear y'all's answers, and I'd be like, well, I'm a better person than them.
Well, you know what? Screw Mike. Dan, I'll go first.
Yeah, Dan.
And
or Pete.
Go.
Just go in your face. Guess what? It is Harbor Freight.
Yeah, I know.
I have seen a shopsmith. I've seen what they can do. They were good for a while. Like, no one tool should do that much. Okay.
It does 13 tools 30% of the way.
But
Yes.
have you seen
But you know
the
what?
table
Guess
saw
what?
that comes on the Shopsmith?
Harbor Freight does all the work, well, maybe 40% of the time. So that's better, just better metrics right there. I do have a firm rule, and most of you guys know it. It's nothing with a motor, but if I really had to go with it, I'd go with the
World
Harbor
Hunger.
Freight.
It's World Hunger.
It's World Hunger. Yeah.
Does this assume you get free replacement ones, or do you have to actually pay for them?
Or are you just limited to when they break and that's it? You're out.
Oh, when they break.
I'm assuming you're paying for them, but that's like the only choice. Like you're on a desert island and they just happen to have a Harbor Freight. Which, like no food,
Desert island of all time.
But a Harbor Freight.
Desert Island Harbor Freight, episode 19.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're never getting them as a sponsor. You realize
guys,
that?
if you want quality tools at low prices, check out harborfreight.com with a 20% off coupon and AWP at checkout. You'll get 20% off.
20% on.
Oh.
All right.
Oh, Dan, what about you?
Dan, what's your answer?
Oh man.
It's
well,
perfect.
I want to keep all my tools. Sorry.
It's a rock and a hard place.
Sorry, starving kids. The tools.
I love Milwaukee. All right.
Since you said Milwaukee, I
did.
came home to a new Milwaukee tape measure that somebody sent me.
Oh, did someone send a message about that?
I got a little 6-inch.
I got a
Someone
little
asked a
3
question,
foot.
like ask Dan about his new tape measure.
I got a little 3-foot Milwaukee tape measure.
That's awesome, man.
That's weird,
awesome.
Dan. You got something
got a
else for
little
your
keychain
Milwaukee
on.
tools in the mail, but you didn't mention it.
Oh, I don't know.
Freaking
Pete's fishing hard.
Mike, what about you?
I don't think so. I don't think I did.
Well, Dan clearly wants all the kids to starve. Mike, what about you?
I think I'm gonna go to the Desert Island Harbor Freight. That place sounds all right. I don't want a Shopsmith. Those things are turds.
You know what would be great? A Desert Island Macbeth.
Yeah, Desert Island Macbeth would be fantastic.
Just like, well, you're only client, so whatever you want.
All right, let's go to the next and final Patreon question here. This is from Lee with Regal Street Workshop or Woodshop? Shop. Woodshop.
Hey guys, it's Lee from Regal Street Woodshop. A couple quick for you this week. What's your preferred method other than a drum sander for flattening a end grain cutting board? And also, I didn't know if you had any tips or tricks for eliminating burning on denser woods such as maple in the bandsaw or in the table saw. I've tried speeding up the feed rate and everything, and it just turns the wood black. Any tips you have would be great. Thanks, guys.
Dan.
First of all, without having a drum sander, I would definitely use a router flattening jig. I mean, that seems like the way to go. That's the way I used to do it before I got a drum sander and I got inducted to that club.
You love it.
I love it. I'm not complaining. That's not a complaint. As far as keeping maple from burning, I would always make sure that my blade is sharp and clean. Make sure your blade is clean. That is key. Take your blade out, clean it with some Simple Green or laundry detergent if you listen to Pete.
Tide Pods.
Works.
Yeah, just a sharp and clean blade. That really helps a ton. What about you, Mike?
I've never done an end grain cutting board.
What?
I know.
Are you
right?
even a woodworker?
I was waiting for it. You guys owe each other a Coke or whatever. High fives.
Yeah. Jack and Coke.
No. Yeah, I've never done. Sorry, a motorcycle gang just drove by. I've never, I've never done one. But Dan's so ditto with Dan. I mean, flattening jig makes the most sense to me. I have a drum sander, so I'd use them. But yeah, flattening jigs makes the most sense. And then burning ditto. You just got to make sure they're clean. There's not a whole lot you can do. If you have a dirty blade, it's going to heat up that pitch and that stuff on there, and that's going to burn the wood.
Clean the old blade.
I'm gonna go a different route, just so we're not boring. I use a planer sled. So it's a planer sled with an adjustable back, so I can set it to different heights.
You're gonna put an ingrain board through your planer?
Yes, and there's a video on my Instagram.
Holy.
Yeah.
You are
I've done it, and only. So here's the thing: there's two things you got to focus on, and it's it needs to be backed up, so it needs to have a solid something behind it. And the sled I have is a thick sled plus backers, and I can set them to different heights. And I actually hot glue it in place, so that thing's not gonna move. It sounds angry when you run it through, but it has good results.
The internet safety police are gonna come after you.
Well, bring it. Bring it.
Just want to say.
Just like 3.5 inches of tear out on the backside.
Hey, that's why you chamfer. And wait, what was the other question?
I don't think there was.
How do you keep maple from burning?
Oh,
or
depending on
like
the cut, I would just overcut it. Do your, cut the splitting the wood or board if you're cutting the end of it, and then just do like a, just a little
a hair pass.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but I can't because we're clean.
I know
just like a small pass.
A little CH pass.
Yeah, I do the same thing with if I'm running something on a router with a Harbor Freight bit. Harbor Freight quality at a good price.
Bits. God.
Just run it through with tape on it or tape on the fence, and then take the tape off, and it literally takes off just like the tape thickness.
Instead of a Harbor Freight bit, couldn't you just like mount a nail in your router?
Right. Just like throw like a butter knife in your router. Spin that thing.
Oh, I'm writing that down.
Hey, that was the end of the Patreon questions or patron questions. I don't know what it'd be. So we're gonna go into the giveaway. Daniel,
what up? Oh yeah, the giveaway. This week's giveaway.
Sorry to wake you up.
The walrus oil. I said that right on the first try, Brian.
You did.
I messed that up. The winner of the walrus oil, 32 ounce. I know. God dang it. Let me start over.
Yeah. Start over.
Third takes a charm, guys.
Check it out.
The winner of the walrus oil, 32 ounce furniture oil, and the 3 ounce furniture wax of a $43 value total. There are 2 winners this week, guys. Winner number 1 was Lee from Regal Street Wood Shop.
Nice.
Congratulations, Lee. And winner number 2 was Jordan Krantz from PNW Hunter Dad on IG. Congratulations to both of those dudes. You're getting...
Clarification. There's actually one is the furniture finish and one is the cutting board oil.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
See, I was gone for the last 6 days. So.
Yeah, Dan's gone. I don't... But yeah, there's one 32-ounce jug of the cutting board oil, and the other one is the 32-ounce jug of the furniture finish.
There you go.
Who it is. But anyway, Dan's got more information.
Oh, so this week we're giving away a 750 milliliter container of Ecopoxy Flowcast. That is a $60 value, sponsored by Macbeth Hardwood.
Yes, thank you,
I
Macbeth.
Mentioned that before. Thank you, Macbeth. So you know the drill, guys. We want you to send the catchphrase.
We did not think of one.
Oh, I've written down some things.
Oh yes.
I like that. Catchphrase this week is either going to be, and I'm going to run it by the guys real quick live on the show.
Okay.
Festool Shopsmith.
Ooh.
Or butter knife router bit.
Yes.
Butter knife router bit.
Pete.
Ooh,
Pete doesn't want to go with mine because he's so mad at me.
No, I kind of love the Festool Shopsmith because I'm imagining it is because it comes in a sustainer and it's massive.
There we go. All right, the catchphrase this week, guys, is going to be Festool Shopsmith.
I just imagine the sustainer the size of my shop.
You need to send that to us on our IG handle, Another Woodshop Podcast, in a DM, or email us at anotherwoodshop@gmail.com. Festool Shopsmith.
Oh, Macbeth, thank you so much. You guys are amazing.
Love you guys. That's so great.
Oh, okay. This is fun. Oddly enough, Jordan was the winner. But
He was the winner. He was the legit winner. We did a whole thing.
Yeah.
Random.
Jordan Krantz won, but he's actually he is a caller, and he called in with this question right here.
Hey guys, Jordan here with P&W Hunter Dad on Instagram. I found an old hatchet that I'd like to remake a handle for it. I know you guys make the mallets. Do you have a suggestion on wood that I should use?
I make the mallets, and Dan makes the mallets. Pete, do you make the mallets? Oh, you have?
Yeah, I made mallets. Yeah.
I wasn't accusing you of anything. I just don't remember you making you.
Don't come at me like that on live freaking podcast recordings, man.
Yeah, bro. No, I didn't know you made them. I was legitimately just asking. It wasn't meant to be an attack. But with that being said, Dan, what's your answer?
Well, historically, hatchet handles are made out of ash, and so are baseball bats. By the way, I don't know if you knew that. So I would say ash if you can, or spice it up and make it out of walnut or white oak or something. Something you want something hard and dense.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah. Like poplar. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I agree. And like most of us, how often are we chopping wood? If this is a hatchet, it's a hatchet too. It's not a splitting axe. It's a hatchet. You're not going to be using it like daily to split wood to heat your house. I say
you're assuming a lot.
I'm assuming a lot. But here's the thing. This is an opportunity to get a little fancy. And yeah, go with some harder wood. If you want to go with ash or some hard maple, but you know what we're going to say is throw some walnut in there. Do a lamination, cut it out on a bandsaw.
There you go.
Shape it, on a sander by hand or
shape it with a draw knife like Mike would.
Spoke shave.
A festool shopsmith.
Yeah, this is a time to get really fancy because people aren't going to notice like you have an axe. People are going to notice that you have an axe that's 3-tone. It's going to be really nice. So
festool SM7000.
Yep.
Maple
and it comes with a removable head.
Yeah.
And each one's $100.
I'm actually not going to answer this one because you guys have answered it so well. So just choose a nice hardwood that you like, man. It's going to be good no matter what. Choose something you haven't worked with, as long as it's a hardwood, and you'll have fun with it. Just make it
whatever you have in stock.
Yeah, get some ePay.
It's a mallet. Honestly, it's not a mallet, but it's a hatchet, and whatever wood you're gonna use, just go to town with the finish. Make it like super nice. Make it look cool. And I was joking about what Pete said, but yeah, you're probably not using a hatchet every day. It's mostly going to be a showpiece. It sounds like you found this hatchet. You're going to doctor it up, make it look real pretty, make it a showpiece, make it real nice. Use some rustic MDF or some bird's eye pine.
Yeah.
There you
go. The
the
next question is from due to another legal obligation, is from Josh the Dad, and he's got a long one for us.
Oh my God.
Hey guys, this is Josh the Dad. Josh the Dad, one of the Big IG, coming at you with this week's question, memoirs, thoughts. Yeah. So first things first, Dan, thank you for your support. I'm not a realtor, but if I did, I would definitely sell you my swampland down in Florida. Mike, I have a car for sale. If you're interested, I do want to sell it because I want to buy a truck. And Pete, we need to talk about your anger issues because apparently when I asked the question last week, you got a little hot about your stuff in your shop and wanted to destroy things and turn them into other things. And yeah, it kind of scared me. So, hey, I'm a good listener. Give me a call. We can chat. If I can't help you, I know a guy. This week's question comes at you as a collaboration. I was talking with Kevin over at Lefty's Wood Shop, and he kind of threw something at me, and I thought, hey, that's a good idea. See, there's a lot of educators out here on the Big IG that are woodworkers, and we're kind of curious sometimes about how you remember your schooling throughout your years. You don't want to ask me because I have a lot of traumatic memories of school. Wasn't very good, but that's okay. I'm getting better now. So here's the big question. What is your favorite childhood memory from school? Is it shop class? Is it home ec? I won't assume anything. Maybe you were really good in algebra. I sure wasn't. Or English or history. Oh, man, this is going downhill real fast. Hey, guys, please save me. What are your memories?
Pete.
So for me, it was an art class. I I took it for 3 years in a row with the same teacher. He was really good. He was I don't know, he's like one of those quirky guys that just like was kind of out there, but you really felt his passion for it. He was often shirtless, and anytime we would, make a bowl, he would sit behind us and slip our hands or his hands behind our hands and help us mold it together.
Like Ghost?
Oh wait, I'm talking about Ghost. That's right. Yeah, Ghost.
I wasn't paying attention. I was like, what?
Well, since we're talking about it, it's really any teacher that got really hands-on with whatever we're working on. And ironically for me, it was one of the classes that I took that were it was an electronics class where we worked with Legos and circuitry and made it like automated Legos. And it was really hands-on. He showed you, he had this rule of like, I sit on my hands when I talk to you, I explain it to you. And that's, I think, what a lot of us do in our videos. We can't physically take someone's piece of wood and align it correctly or mark the piece of wood for them. We have to be really good about explaining. We're painting a picture with our words and showing them our way, but then they have to interpret that as close to that as possible. So any teacher that did that, and I don't remember the guy's name, I just remember the class very, very fondly because I learned by him explaining it really, really well and painting a picture in my brain. What about you, Mike?
I struggled in school a lot.
Oh, that explains a lot.
I struggle a lot school. Well, I use many words.
When you can use less words.
No, I struggled a lot in school, and the thing was I'd never do my homework, but I'd always pass my tests really high, and the teachers wouldn't. Anyway, I had troubles in school. I tested high, but I never did my homework ever. And I always hated school. I hated it my whole life. My whole career in school. I just couldn't stand it. And I got to the point where I was starting to fail, and I almost had to skip a grade early in high school. Not skip a grade. I almost had to repeat a grade early in high school, and my parents pulled me
from really
out.
Smart to really dumb.
Yeah, yeah. They pulled me. I don't know how deep I want to go into this, but I got pulled out of school and I got put in a charter school, and I started taking college classes, and I actually really enjoyed that because what I was able to do with the charter schools, I was able to take the college classes and get double the credits of my high school classes and I ended up graduating about a year early, and that was really enjoyable to me because I just hated high school the most. Like I hated like the people around my age, and I really hated to this day I don't like mob mentality and clique behavior. I don't like that at all. I don't like when one person says something and then someone else goes yeah, and then a bunch of people start saying it because the other person said it. I hate that so much. It really frustrates me, and I hated that about school. So I just struggled with it. It was something I couldn't move past, and it was not handled well by me. So when I got into college classes in high school, that's when I started to actually really enjoy school. And some of my classes that I enjoyed the most were actually music classes. When I played guitar since I was like 5 years old, but I really enjoyed the music classes I took at the college, and those were kind of the best ones. We didn't have a wood shop at my school, so I didn't get to enjoy any of that. I wish I did, because it would have been cool to find woodworking in my life a lot sooner than 34 or whenever I found it. So what about you, Dan?
I don't have a lot of fond memories of school either.
Yeah.
It's not a subject I like to talk about, but what the heck? I'll tell y'all.
Josh really hit some
He really did.
Yeah.
Man, this is deep.
It's let's talk about your relationship with your mother.
So this is something I don't put out on the internet, but I'm a high school dropout. I'm not super proud of it. I'm not proud of it at all. But I struggled a lot. And
are you ashamed of it though?
No, because I've made some really great decisions in my life that have brought me to where I'm at now, and I don't think I would change a thing. But I don't like to talk about it openly, but here we are. I got kicked out of high school with 10 weeks left in my senior year because, ironically enough, I got in a fight in woodshop class. I knocked some kid's teeth out.
About domino joiners?
Those weren't invented yet.
Oh, okay.
This is the mid-90s.
That doesn't provide structural integrity.
No, my younger brother, who's a moose now, he towers over me, but he never used to. He has a hearing disability, and there was a kid that was making fun of him all the time that lived behind us, and he wouldn't ever come out and confront me or talk to me. But he ended up being in my woodshop class, so I confronted him there and took care of business and got kicked out of school. So I ended up dropping out, and I had to go back and get my GED, and I went back and I took some college courses and yada yada, and my life turned out fine.
Yeah,
I don't like
wrong
school.
with that.
I don't like school.
I never really
liked
enjoyed school a lot either, but yeah. Josh, you really hit up on some points here.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thanks,
Well,
dude.
this
We didn't need
episode,
this.
Done. We're not gonna do really an outro this time. We're just gonna hard cut. So.
Jeez.
Jeez, weird.
We're gonna end it there.
Yeah.
Oh.
No. This
Dan's a dropout. See ya.
Yeah. This
Put
next
a warning
question
in the show notes.
is from Mark. We don't have much more information than that. I'm not really sure what happened, but Mark, thank you for calling in.
Hey guys, this is Mark. Just a beginner woodworker, don't have a company or anything, but just wondering, what would you guys do? I was looking into getting a miter saw, but also looking into get a track saw, and just wondering which one would you guys go with. Thank you for all your input, and keep up the good work, guys. Bye.
I'll take this one. Honestly, I would say go with the track saw. I know Dan's gonna argue with me. Well, not gonna argue with me. Dan's gonna give a different opinion. I say go with the track saw because I can do everything that I can think of with a track saw that I need to do with a miter saw. That's kind of my answer. But the track saw you can do. I think you can rip stuff, which you cannot rip anything with a miter saw. You can cut the miters with a track saw, and they're really nice. They're really nice miters. The angles are tight, and everything is good. So, to me, I feel like the answer is track saw. But I want to hear Dan's opinion because he is mad. He's fuming mad right now.
Grr.
I quit.
What?
I quit.
You quit?
Well, we've just
He
established
flipped
I'm
the
a
desk
quitter, so might as well just.
Oh God.
I'm still thinking about that last question. No, I actually was gonna say a miter saw, but the more I thought about it, the more I agree with Mike. I think a track saw would be a better bet. Although you could get a miter saw for cheaper than a track saw generally, unless you get that Win track saw.
Yeah,
that can be about.
That's still a little pricey.
It's about $200, and my first miter saw was about $200. It was the DeWalt 10-inch non-slider, non-anything. It was just, yeah. I'm gonna go with track saw. I think Mike hit the nail on the head.
I think the ripping is what really is the game changer with that.
Assuming he doesn't have a table saw.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, especially.
Which you should have a table saw before a lot of tools. I think we've discussed that. Well, anyway, let's not get off track. Go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
Same.
What
was funny is in a pre-show we said I think a lot of us said miter saw, but
I'm pretty sure
if this is a buy once cry once situation, if you're thinking high end or like a mid-range miter saw or track saw, go track saw. You can get a miter saw for $100 on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, those things are all over the Facebook Marketplace.
Yep, they are. That's a very good point too.
And a track saw is a precision tool, so it's worth it. Just get more tracks with it. That's it.
Yeah. You get different
and get more saw.
Yeah, more saw. Get more track, more saw, and you're set.
There you go.
Hey, this next question is from PJ Galati.
Oh God.
Pete, you want to field this one, bud?
Yeah, PJ, we talked about this. You can't talk the way you speak in your voicemail. Okay, this is a family show. The pre-show's dirty. For those of you listening in a pre-show, or those of you that are patrons and a high enough tier to get the pre-show, you will hear his voicemail. And those of you that are not,
funny.
It's funny.
It's just not appropriate for the show.
PJ,
but it's a little inappropriate.
Buddy, my friend. We're not gonna play it. Him and Memphis got into it again. Let's put it that way. He had a question though, and I kind of spaced on a question. Do you remember the question?
Let's move on to the next one. I honestly don't remember what it is, PJ. Sorry, I apologize.
We can double back if anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can play it right now, and I can edit this out. Nope, we're not gonna
play it and skip to the last part where we actually ask the question.
I can clean this out.
Give me 1 second. Wait, no, I get it. I remember it. Okay, I remember it.
Hold on, give
Emotional. Do you guys have?
Hold on. Okay, go. No, I want you to say it. I want to be able to edit it out.
Oh, I got you. PJ's question is, do you have an emotional attachment to any of your tools? Do you have trouble selling? Like, have you sold a tool and you really felt it? And I'm just going to feel this to Mike. Mike, you can feel free to turn off your camera because I know it's going to be tough. Can you please talk about your joiner?
I'm actually selling some tools. I sold my table saw, and it was actually pretty tough because before my table saw that I just sold, I had a really piece of garbage used saw, and I did learn a lot on that thing, but I learned a ton on the table saw I just sold. I really learned a lot about what I am on this table saw.
Dude, I thought you were talking about the Laguna for a second, like it's a piece of trash table saw.
No. The Laguna was great. No, the one I had before was I got it for like $75. Some dude was getting divorced. No, the Laguna was fantastic. That's the one where I really learned a lot of stuff on, and I did have a lot of memories with that. And Thelma Kennedy bought it, and that softened the blow a bit because I know her and she's really cool. So
Thelma's a patron. Thank you, Thelma.
Yeah, Thelma's a patron. You're the best, Thelma. And then I just sold my joiner, and there's some reasons why that is important to me, but I'm not going to go into that. There's some reasons I'm not going to go into on the show why that tool
Mike
means.
lost his virginity on that song.
I mean, Pete, you just came right out and said it, didn't you?
Yeah, I guess
Mike was trying to allude to it.
I was trying to be classy. No, but anyway, that machine meant a lot to me as well, and it was hard to see that one go. So, but the other side of the same coin is, they are just tools. So I am able to look at it and be like, yeah, it's just a tool. Like it just is. It's a way for me to do woodworking. For me, the woodworking is more important than the actual tool. And I do say this saying a lot. If the tool gets the job done, it's the right tool. And I do believe that. Like just having a nice tool. The more expensive tools usually just add a level of convenience, and really the tools don't. For me, it's the memories that are tied to the tool, not the actual tool's value itself is what actually means a lot to me. It's that I learned a lot on my last table saw, and it was a big part of my woodworking. I hate my woodworking journey. I say it like every episode, and I hate this phrase, but it's a big part of it for me. Dan, you?
I have zero emotional attachment to any tool, except for my Mirka sander from Macbeth.
Nice.
I've slept and I may have made love to that tool, but other than that, I have no emotional attachment to any tool whatsoever.
You know your wife listens to this show, right?
Oh man,
she never makes it past 15 minutes.
That's true. Pete, what about you?
I only have an emotional attachment to two tools, and that's Dan Dunlap and Mike Coffee. Hey-o!
Hey, zinger.
So early on when I was getting started and I was slowly upgrading my tools.
Back in Poland?
Back in Mother Clifton, New Jersey. It was my DeWalt contractor saw. And I had that stupid thing for almost 11 years. And I've done every 11? Job on. Yeah. I got it in 2007 or something. I got it right out of high school. And I had that thing for 10 years until I moved into this place. I had it for about 2.5, and then I got the rigid. And when I sold it, I unfortunately sold it to just some rando off of Facebook Marketplace. But the guy showed up and it was actually he seemed cool, really cool. So it made me feel better. It was it felt like it was going to a better home. It was a new woodworker. He does contracting for his day job, but ended up actually being a woodworker as well. It wasn't someone that was just going to throw it in the back of a truck. So it felt kind of
Brad Rodriguez.
Oh, be rad. But aside from that, I haven't really been that attached to a lot of my tools. Most of them kind of went through the shop really quickly, and the ones that I really made a connection with are still in the shop. I haven't gotten rid of them. But that's not going to last
coming
forever.
From the guy who has like jars of bolts and screws that he can't get rid of that were in the house.
I'm throwing those out slowly. Okay, you just have to say buy in the proper way, okay?
I got this Jif jar in 1974, and I filled it.
No joke. Okay, really weird tangent. But I have a screw organizer that is just yellow from like, you know when like something, just plastic goes old and it turns yellow?
UV rays.
It's an IBM branded tool organizer, which means this came with like a server board, probably in the 90s. This thing is ancient, and it came with this house. I found it in the house in one of the cubbies.
And Pete still has it.
Yeah, Pete still has it.
It's empty now. I put it in a Harbor Freight. When I upgraded to the Harbor Freight organizers.
Yeah, you know, I mean, really, the tool itself, I don't know if I have. I mean, it's a symbol, really. I mean, the tool is like it's a symbol of a memory, but I still have the memories, so it's whatever. Whoa, hey, wrong button there. This next question is from Sam Ross. Sam, thank you for calling in, and this is our last voicemail.
You called in late. Love the podcast. Definitely fills the void when I'm washing dishes. Gives me something good to listen to. So I'm a new woodworker, and I've started taking it up recently, and I'm just wondering the best way to figure out how to make something strong and sturdy and stable when it comes to furniture. I just see a lot of stuff out there that either looks really, really thin, and I'm wondering, hey, how is that, stable? Hey, how does that, support all that weight? And then I'll see something that's really heavy, and I'll be like, okay, that looks a little too, too much wood. That's all. Anyways, thank you. Bye.
Pete?
So, fun fact, Sam was a student of mine at the DIY joint. Eventually, guy taking a bunch of privates and classes at the school, turned a couple months later into another teacher at the school. So he went within a year from really not being a woodworker. Yeah, Sam.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so not being a woodworker, I'm pretty sure it's the same Sam, yeah. Because he was messaging me, I hope it's the same Sam. But he went from, starting out in woodworking to teaching at a woodworking school within about a year, which is really freaking cool. That's awesome. The other part of it is he's actually working on a dining room table, because again, we were talking about this, and he wanted the modern look, the really sleek legs going right into the tabletop. So we discussed like aprons. Basically you have to think of the structure and how it's going to move, because if one of your pieces of furniture just stands there, you can go just glue or brad nails or whatever and it'll be fine. But if you're going to apply any weight on it, that's when it starts getting funky. So just think of how it can get moved. If it's a table, try to wiggle it back and forth. Like, in which way can this move? And try to stabilize that in any way you can. With some nice, hand-cut joinery, you can do that. If you have a nice fat mortise or mortise and tenon joint, it'll be fine. For a table, it's a skirt for the table. But just think in advance of what that thing is designed to do. If it's just a table that's just going to sit there, you're going to put hairpin legs into it, cool. That's fine. You're putting hairpin legs into hardwood. But if there's a lot of people doing like IKEA hacking with like those faux wooden tops that are really just filled with cardboard. You can do that too and just customize the base, but technically that thing is not really structurally sound. It just looks strong. So think of basically anytime you look at a project, think of how it's going to be used and apply pressure in every direction that you think it can go to make sure that it is stable before it goes out the door to a client or into your house. Dan, what about you?
I think it also has to do with a lot of trial and error. The more you build, the more you're going to realize how things react to pressure and movement and stuff. And, you get better at design and you get better at the materials used. That's going to affect it as well. Take, for instance, the desk I just finished, the big 90-inch by 38-inch desk. I was going to make cantilevered legs entirely, but when I got done with the legs themselves and I pushed down on them just to see how much weight they would hold, they just had too much flex for me. So I added some decorative strengthening pieces on the legs themselves. I don't know what to call them.
It's like a stringer. I get no string. A
Not
vertical
a
member. It's like a vertical member. I guess
it's like a vertical structural support.
Yeah.
And I just made them.
It's a post.
Yeah. Yeah. Post. Yeah, that's a good word, Mike.
Yeah.
Good job.
You're welcome.
So I just added an extra post. I made them decorative and they look good.
Yep.
But I think it comes down to, a lot of trial and error and working on the fly and seeing what works and testing and yeah. It comes with practice.
Yep. And there's also, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Go.
There's also things that exist that are pre-calculated span charts. And those exist, and you can find them on the internet. I've actually referred to them in my day job in construction. We refer to span charts a lot. Mostly, it's all steel, but they actually have wood pre-calculated and engineered span charts for spans. So if you've got like a 2x4, which is 1.5 by 3.5, it'll tell you how far that piece of wood can span before you're going to start seeing sagging. Those things exist. Well, they're based on Doug fir and pine and stuff. So you figure something that you're making out of furniture is probably going to be made out of a hardwood realistically. So you're going to be, what's up, Ben?
But if those exist, I would argue that somebody out there somewhere has made span charts for
I was going to say
hardwoods.
You can definitely actually find span charts for specific species. You just Google walnut span chart and it will bring up the span charts for that wood.
Boom. I learned something today.
If you look up wood span charts, it'll bring up construction lumber. But if you look up specific species and their span charts, they have all the PSI figured out and everything for the span, and it'll tell you like minimums for that size. And then there's you can find them in like 3/4, 4/4, stuff like that. You can find these span charts. They exist.
That's good.
Yeah. I just binged it and it did come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You binged it?
Yeah.
Binged it?
Yeah, I just binged it.
Just reaching out to everyone
Jeeves
for a new third.
Ask Jeeves is not as accurate anymore. I used to use it.
Alta
Vista was great, but they stopped it. So
he was just listening to Ace of Base on his Zune and binging.
Zune has a superior audio quality that the iPod does not.
Bob. Oh yeah, Dwight. Anyway, there's ways to find these things, but ultimately, these span charts cover like really large spans, and they don't really go down to small like apron sizes, and they don't also don't factor in that you have like. So you've got like a tabletop. You've got an apron, right? And that can go pretty small because you have a tabletop, which actually is carrying a lot of that weight. The tabletop carries a lot of weight. It's when you laminate them together that makes it so strong. It's that joint together that is actually going to make them have a lot of strength. So if you have like a piece of plywood and you have some 2x4s on the end of that 8-foot span, it's going to sag a lot in the middle. But if you glue another piece of plywood to that sag's almost going to be gone entirely because you have glue. It's actually stopping the side-to-side shear movement because the glue is on. So shear force it adds a lot of strength to things. It doesn't allow things to slide. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that adds a lot of strength to any body, any structure, any frame. So, but yeah, what Dan said is right. What Pete said is right. There's a lot of information. You figure it out pretty quick. You can start eyeballing things and go, ooh, that's a really tiny tapered leg. That's going to explode.
That's why when I finished that walnut desk, I took a picture of me sitting on top of it smiling real big because I had a lot of people saying, ooh, isn't that going to sag? No, it's not. I've done this a few times.
Right. So that is the podcast question segment.
We're at the 120 mark.
Oh, we are?
Or 1 hour 20 mark.
This is going to be a big one.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Pete, I'm going to throw it over to you to do the outro.
Oh, I did not practice this.
Okay.
That's a joke. Witam wszystkich do naszego podcast. Yeah, there we go. That's my Polish section. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We encourage you all to check us out on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok for Dan and Mike because they are 15 and they enjoy that kind of thing. If you are so kind, leave us a voicemail. Send us a message. Ideally, we want you to record it in your voice memo app and send it over to anotherwoodshopodcast@gmail.com. If you don't feel confident doing that, you can just call in at 754-CALL-AWP or 754-2255-297 and leave a lovely voicemail. Make sure you don't do that in your truck or a wind tunnel. We've had those before. We've had to abbreviate them. Try to keep them concise too. We do love hearing your voices, but not for 3 minutes. And if you guys want to get some of this extra content that we were kind of nodding to today, make sure to check us out on Patreon. We don't have any individual Patreons, so this is pretty much the one. If you want to support us individually, this is the way to do it right now. And, like, subscribe, follow, comment, share, all that. Make sure to hit the bell in the corner. Oh, that's right. This isn't a YouTube video. But share it with everyone. If you guys could share it in your stories, we'd really appreciate it. We've actually had a really nice week of pretty large accounts hitting us up and reaching out and following the podcast. And we're getting very solid feedback from both you guys and the larger accounts in the community. And we cannot say how much we appreciate it. It has been amazing.
And I want to say it doesn't matter the size of the account that listens. It really doesn't. But if you do happen to have, whatever your account is, just the podcast is on a solid upward trajectory right now, and man, we are just so excited about it. And me and Pete were very excited. We were excited to do the show without Dan because of the sound bites, but we were excited when Dan messaged us and said, "Hey, I'm going to be on for the show." We're excited because we love doing this show. Like, we legitimately, the three of us, we talk like 50, 60 times a day. It's really terrible. I don't enjoy it, but we have to.
One day of my vacation, I woke up to 56 text messages, and they were all from Mike and Pete.
That's because you go to sleep early. It's not our fault.
It's really important to us that we get this right. It's really
I actually run on Mike's time. I run on California time just so we can talk more. I go to sleep at 3 a.m. Some of you know that's actually true. I go to sleep at 3 a.m. just so I can talk to Mike. Yeah.
But anyway, the point is it really is important to us that we get this right. And, feedback's important to us, but only positive feedback. No, I'm just kidding. Feedback is really important to us. And we really want to hear everyone's thoughts on things. But if you could just share it, we just really appreciate it. Sharing the show is the biggest thing, and getting the word out there. I was talking to someone this morning, and he's like, "Man, I didn't even know you had a podcast." I only mention it in my stories. There's only so much promoting we can do individually. We could pay for advertising, but we're not in that position.
We don't do that.
Yeah, we're not. We
like organic growth.
Community driven.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. When we started the show, we don't spend the whole show talking about ourselves and our week and stuff. We're answering questions, but we want the show to be about community questions. We want to answer your questions. That's what we want this to be about. So it's a community show, and we literally, not facetiously, we literally couldn't do this show without you. So thank you so much for everything you guys do. It's really greatly appreciated. And I didn't mean to grab your outro there, Pete, but
no, that's perfect. It's thanks to them that we're able to do video podcasts. We're able to do intro or the pre-show. We're able to do Dan stickers and t-shirts and other content. We're able to offer all this. We would do this for free, but the fact that you guys are able to support us on Patreon, it gives us that much more incentive to give you better and more content. So thank you all. You're amazing. We love you all. Yep. And 5-star reviews only. 5 stars only.
5-star reviews. 5-star reviews. Is that it?
I think that's it. Should we wrap it up?
Wrap it up. Yep. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. So I've had too much bourbon.
Yeah, I've had too much everything.
Mike's having a hard time keeping his eyes open.
Yeah. Oh, I'm wide awake. I want to do a live after this. We'll talk about that. Anyway.
It's 12:20 here, God.
I'll do it.
I know Dan will.
Pete. Okay. Do it.
I love you long time.
I'm committed.
Love you long time. Oh, no one said no.
Love you long time.
Love you long time.
I love you long time. I love you VIP time.
Love you long time.
Bye.
Kill it.
Well, that was enough.
All right.